Right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I think because it's such a short webinar, we'll make a start right away. But the session will be recorded, so if anyone's a bit late, they can always jump back to the beginning, but it's mostly the welcome part. Yes, so this is the first of 3 webinars that we're going to be hosting as part of the public consultation for our strategy for a sustainable future. Just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. So obviously this webinar is being recorded, with the intention of that being then shared on the consultation webpage. That's why we've kept everyone's cameras off. It's just a bit easier that way. However, the Q&A function is open. So if you've got any questions throughout the webinar, pop them in there and we'll get to those at the end. So next slide, please. So what is the agenda for this webinar? So we're going to start with a quick overview of, what is York and North Yorkshire strategy for a sustainable future, and then focusing in a bit on that strategic pillar of securing energy independence, which is the purpose of this webinar. I'll then hand over to our guest speaker. So that's Dr. Steve Hall. He is a senior industry research fellow in the Energy and Climate Futures team at the University of York. So he will give his talk, and then we'll dive into answering some questions. I know we've had a few that were submitted beforehand, but we've also, like I said, got the Q&A function open, so you can pop something in there as well. Right, next slide, please. So what is the strategy for a sustainable future? I'm sure most of you will be aware, but just to give a bit of an overview, it's our regional strategy for reaching carbon negative by 2040, but also focusing on how we can get that sustainable future to benefit our communities, our businesses, and the environment. So looking at what a sustainable future means to us, it's a bit of a broad term. So it means reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. It also means removing any remaining emissions, and that's that carbon negative ambition there. It's also about adapting to the current and future impacts of our changing climate. And it's also about a shift in mindset. So from simply sort of reducing harm that we're doing to actively doing more good for communities and the environment. In terms of the responsibility for the strategy, so it covers the whole of York and North Yorkshire. And whilst it's being led by the combined authority, it has been designed and delivered, and it will be delivered together with regional partners. Next slide, please. So a quick overview of what the strategy covers. This is our lovely strategic framework, which can be a bit overwhelming at first glance, but we'll start in the middle. So that is central to this strategy. It's our ambition to create that sustainable future. So one that benefits communities and businesses, and drives the way in sort of tackling climate change. And then around that, we've got our strategic pillars. So this is how we're going to unlock that ambition. So moving towards a circular economy, enhancing our environment, and securing energy independence, which is obviously the focus of this webinar. The strategy itself focuses on the areas of highest impact. So these are where the sector plans come in. They cover sort of power, buildings, sustainable business, transport, food, farming, and so on. And then finally, around the outside, you see our big 3 goals. These are the outcomes that our strategy is seeking to achieve. So that's economic transformation, healthy and thriving communities, and of course, becoming England's first carbon negative region by 2040. And then just focusing in a bit on the strategic pillar of securing energy independence. It's really about providing locally owned, affordable energy for all. So, what is energy independence? This ambition stems from our local area energy plans, which examined our renewable energy potential as a region against that future energy demand. And it found that we do have the ability to meet our energy needs through electricity that is generated within the region. But why is this something that we want to work towards? So obviously the current climate and things that are happening, reducing that vulnerability to global energy markets is a priority to really help stabilize those energy bills for both households and businesses, and also working to the larger national ambitions of energy security. And then through promoting that local ownership of energy, seeking to really help communities feel that benefit of the clean energy transition. So in terms of what this will involve, the full details of this is obviously found in the consultation draft of the strategy. I won't go into too much detail, but at a high level, It's about promoting sort of energy efficiency through retrofits, so making sure that the energy we do consume, consume smartly, supporting that local energy production by residents and businesses, making it easier for communities to come together to develop and benefit from energy projects. And finally, taking a place-based approach. So rather than taking a one-size-fits-all approach to energy, we really work to ensure that the right projects are happening in the right place. Thank you very much. So I shall pass over to Steve now, who's going to go into more detail about how York and North Yorkshire can become more energy resilient. So I pass over now.
Thank you very much indeed. Can you hear me okay? Good, I'm not on mute. That's the first win. So I'll speak for about 10 minutes. It might feel like longer, but it'll be about 10 minutes. And then I'm here for questions, right? So do put them in the Q&A function. That's where we get a lot of value from. And it is a consultation after all, but formal consultation responses upload to the proper document. So I'm Steve Hall. I'm at the University of York. I'm an academic there. I also live in Yorkshire, and it's May and I'm not switching the heating on, which is why I'm sat here in a big jacket. That'll become relevant later. So the ambition to become an energy independent region is a laudable one. I look into the energy plans that underpin the strategy. I see a lot of sensible calculations and a lot of thinking going into, well, what does that mean for transport? What does it mean for heating our homes? But I wanted to use this opportunity to make that a little bit more real for daily life. Some people, this is an open webinar, right? So not everybody likes to geek out about energy all of the time like I do. So to make it a little bit more real, I want to think about what energy currently means for Marcy 39 in Whitby in 2026. I'm putting a little bit of myself into this, right? I'm a little bit older than 39, but nevertheless, these are the kind of things I hear from people. All these renewables, but bills are still going up. And then people, well, yes, but they're coming down this in springtime in the price cap, and then they might go up a little bit again. But nevertheless, we have all seen our energy bills increase rapidly at the same time as we're rolling out renewables. There's good reasons for that. We have to build a system that can take it, and we need to reform the market to accommodate cheap renewables. But nevertheless, until that happens, we will see our bills go up sometimes, and that can be counterintuitive. I don't want to be paying 20 quid every time I drive to work. I hear that, Marcy. I've got you. I want to warm a home, but I can't afford 8 grand for a bit of insulation on an old stone house. Again, I hear it. We are living in a cost of living crisis. We don't have the same amount of elective money that we used to have to spend. There's no chance I'm doing a big renovation for energy. We just redid the kitchens, right? We are talking about changes to our most intimate spaces. We're talking about our aspirations for our home. And if we can't craft policies that are relevant to that, then we won't be able to speak to people's daily lives. And then finally, and one that really resonates with me, I hope it does with some of you, I'm sick of energy being used as a weapon and people suffering for it. This is the second international conflict in 5 years that has had used energy as a weapon. And I, for one, am frankly sick of looking at a petrol pump in my hand thinking I am a little bit of a part of the problem here. And there's part of this strategy is about getting away from that, right? So it's important to frame it in those terms. And then we'll go a tiny little bit technical. It means a lot of rooftop solar panels on our houses. It could mean a lot of ground mounted solar, which in an area of outstanding national beauty, we've got a question like, well, how much land will that take? It's not lots. It's like 1 to 4%, depending on which geography you are speaking about. But even with that amount of new solar, it's single percentage points. It's not like a massive just blanket in the entire county in solar panels. So it's definitely achievable. And with onshore wind that we're already good at doing, those things together will get us a really long way to energy independence. So I wanted to think about, well, get away from megawatts and think about, well, what does that mean and what does it look like? So in our area, it's a beautiful tourist-centric, agricultural-centric area. So when we travel, perhaps like me, you travel up and down the East Coast main line a little bit on the train and you see fields and fields of solar panels. And personally, I like them. I'm not bothered at all. But others don't. And others see those as like an industrial encroachment on a beautiful landscape that was once used for agriculture and now is used for energy. And, partially that's true, but there are new ways of integrating agriculture with photovoltaics, solar panels, which is called agrivoltaics. And there's research ongoing at the university and others right now about how to optimize that. Equally with onshore wind, like during the early 2000s, we saw a lot of onshore wind and we saw it developed by, companies that weren't local. Perhaps they had a little community investment fund, but nevertheless, a lot of the benefit doesn't really get felt locally, even though our power is a little bit greener. Within this strategy, it says very clearly that it is about finding new ways for us to own and have control over that in that asset. So instead of it just being, foreign capital coming and building something and taking profit, this is something that is front and center of the strategy. And then it becomes not just a wind turbine in a field that we've got nothing to do with, but something that we all own and something that we can all invest in and benefit from energy-wise and financially as well. And that really does change not only the financial calculus, but also like the sense of ownership, the way in which we might plan these developments, the way we might invite communities to be involved. But it's not just solar and wind. A really good example from Askham Bryan College, the electric car, very compatible with the agricultural nature of our region, is using the anaerobic waste, the waste from the dairy and cattle herd in an anaerobic digester to create power from slurry. So it doesn't smell. It's a great way of using renewable energy and using resources that are available to us in the region to power our kind of critical institutions. And of course, I'm from the university, so I couldn't help speaking about our own plans, which are bigger but slower in our deep geothermal energy project, which will really cut the amount of gas we need to use to heat our campus just by using the heat of the earth. And it seems odd that you wouldn't go ahead and do that already, but the costs of gas versus deep geothermal are starting to align, and it starts to make a lot of sense to invest in these technologies on a much bigger scale than has been hitherto achieved, either in the region or across the UK, really. And then what does it mean for homes, right? So we've talked a little bit about what does it mean for land, what does it mean for institutions like our own. But some of you might have seen Guy Martin's House Without Bills, like a deep retrofit on a home to see how much we could drive energy bills out of it. But those investments are expensive and it is a kind of trade-off. It's like, do I want that slightly more expensive kitchen with the nice taps, or do I want to invest in energy efficiency? And that's the kind of calculus that's in people's minds. So we need to retrofit our leaky building stock. It is not a good look to be dependent on foreign fossil fuels simply because we've got an old and leaky building stock. But it is true that that's kind of been pushed onto people as something that they have to find a way to do themselves. And with the government's Warm Homes Plan, which is just been released, and with the areas retrofit strategy, this is about finding ways to help people with the cost, but also align it with their wider aspirations for their home. So we really want to see those types of things coming through as well, and like watch this space for new offers to allow us, get us a little bit of help in insulating homes and retrofitting them for energy efficiency. But it's also true, since the Iran conflict kicked off, that solar panels have been fitted every 3 minutes in the UK. So people and other evidence from elsewhere shows that interest in electric vehicle lease deals have gone through the roof. So, after a series of international conflicts, it starts to become obvious as to how we need to insulate ourselves from this. And regardless of your climate commitments, like renewables and electrification are the way forward. So what does it mean for us in transport? I've animated a few slides. Some of you, anyone that's been traveling around the city of York on buses recently is likely to have traveled on an electric bus. And if you've not noticed, brilliant, like mission accomplished, right? You might notice the air's a little bit clean. It doesn't stink as much when it pulls up, and it might be a little bit smoother. But mission accomplished if, the fares aren't going up, the place is cleaner, it's a little bit quieter. And that's starting to become true as well for EVs. So electric cars, I'm starting to see, I'm getting a little bit jealous of other people in my friend group turning up in what I hope are leased electric vehicles. Really cool colours, really cool driving experience. But I'm cheap, right? This is why I'm sat here in a down jacket that I got in the sale and won't put the heating on. So it's not just that you can get an electric car on any web search like a normal lease car, but they're also starting to pop up on Auto Trader as well. So you can pick yourself up a Nissan Leaf for 2,000 quid, So it's just a used car price. Now, the range might not be as good as the new ones, but if you're just tootling about town, it's not going to matter. And this is coming from a real petrol head, right? Like the last Amazon package that dropped through my door was some carburetors for a ZX6R Ninja. Like I love tinkering about with engines, but I also love having a stable climate, and I think I love the climate thing more. So we might have to let some of those things go. And finally, like not everything is solved though. So it's very true that on-street charging is still an issue. Is it going to go in lampposts and is it going to go in channels in the pavement? How are we going to get electric car charging to people's homes and around people's houses such that anybody without a drive can use it? And that's part of what the drive across the combined authority is to do, is to kind of come up with solutions to these questions that haven't yet been answered. And then finally, what does it mean for us, right? So what does this ownership mean? So all of that clean power, this is AI calculations, right? I did not do these calculations myself, but needs about 3.7 billion's worth of investment with normal prices per megawatt for the different installations. Community ownership models where we all are able to invest for as little as I put 250 quid on that slide. In the next one, I'm going to tell you it's 5 quid, where we can all invest in that transition are starting to become normalized. And half of the needed investment could come from homes across the region. So in Glasgow's current green investment round, you can go on the link below and see what they're using that for. Glasgow City Council, and with its sustainable energy development plan, has been spending community municipal bonds on solar panels on roofs and a host of green projects across the city. And you can invest in what, or local residents can invest in that, and it's the same type of model we could use here for only a fiver, right? You don't need 20,000 quid in savings to invest in those type of things anymore. And that's the type of thing community ownership could mean for us. So to finish up with Marcy again, what might this look like in 2032? If all these stars align and if everybody that's in the consultation response gets stuck in and says like, no, this is how I want it to be. These are my concerns. This is what needs fixing before I can get involved and before other people around me can give their consent. If that works, we might be able to say things like my energy bills are stable now. I know what I'm paying for years. They don't have to fluctuate like they have done in the past. What were we thinking burning diesel to take the kids to school? Like, I'm lucky enough I walk my kids to school, but every now and again when it's raining and it's really, really cold, I'll get in a diesel car and I'll drive them less than a mile. It's a terrible admission, but like the pollutants from that can be a problem, particularly for someone like me who's got breathing difficulties sometimes. I can build energy efficiency into my home improvement plan. Like I know what I'm going to do next. The one of the bathrooms wants, not one of the bathrooms like in the East Wing, right? But a bathroom wants fixing. At that point, that's when I'll be thinking about doing energy efficiency investments because I'm already, having builders in doing something disruptive. When the kids leave home, they've got a nice bit of savings that came from me investing in local renewable energy projects. And finally, I really want to get to a point where knowing that my energy use is not accelerating wars across the world. That's something that's really important to me. I think about it every day. And I know that renewables are a way out of that. So I'm going to move on to a couple of questions, unless we've got some in the live Q&A, because I'd rather answer questions from people in the live Q&A than those have been submitted. And then I will so click the link on your screen to get stuck into the full consultation, and we'll switch over to Q&A now. And if Rebecca and Dylan don't mind, I'll stop sharing my screen so it can feel a little bit more like there's all of us there. I'll leave the link on there just a little bit longer until I stop sharing. So do your thing, get involved in the strategy. Stop presenting. That's going to work. It's not going to end the meeting. All right, cool. Technology's worked for us. Rebecca, do you want to pitch me some of those Q&A questions? I'll take some. Oh, there's one.
Yes,
Okay.
sorry, there's just the one, yeah. But it's saying Mike is saying that the fossil fuel energy supply is hugely profitable and has lots of lobbying, and how will the CA resist and push back? You're welcome to answer this as well, Steve, but I would say that this strategy is probably one way that we're pushing back is by adopting this ambition of reaching carbon negative by 2040. It's going to, be that strategy that we have to account, hold ourselves to account in the decisions that we make, in the projects we put forward, in the things that we support. So I would say that this strategy is one of the first things that we're going to do to support that. But you're welcome to come in, Steve.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, know it when you see it, right? It's well known that fossil fuel lobby groups want a business model into the future, and it's well known that they will, lobby for that just as hard as we will lobby for renewables. But we can know it when we see it. I think one of the questions that's live across the academic space is, you know, who is how do we wean ourselves off fossil fuels, not only in like what we use on campus, but like how it's kind of woven through investments and pension funds and who owns which pieces of infrastructure and things like that. So it's really, really important that we do the difficult work of understanding where that money is and where it's come from, which academically we're well suited to do. But then to expose the alternatives like the ones that I've just put up on the screen. I see Dylan's got his hand up as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think just to build on some of what Rebecca was saying, other things that the CA are doing is we do have regular interactions with many different government departments, right up to the Prime Minister, across the CA. Other things that we're currently working on is we did recently announce a partnership with Great British Energy, so we'll be looking to explore how we can take that further and faster. And you might have seen that the Mayor did recently release an opinion piece in the York Press, sort of criticising the conflict in Iran and the impact that's had on fossil fuel prices, and how rooftop solar is the obvious solution, is the headline to that piece. So yeah, I think there's a wide variety of activity going on across the CA and sort of different things that we can get involved in. But as Rebecca alluded to, your responses to this consultation and this, which will help inform the strategy, is one of the really key pieces that we can evidence this is what the region wants to see.
Brilliant. And I'm going to take on some of the questions that have been submitted via Facebook and some that were sent to the consultation as well, if that's all right, Rebecca. Yeah, so like one theme that keeps coming up is this is a beautiful landscape and it attracts tourists, and I like looking at it, and I don't like looking at wind turbines, and I don't like looking at solar panels. And that's a completely subjective matter. Do you like them or do you not like them? But it still really matters to a lot of people. It's like why have they chosen to live where they live? And if you don't like these infrastructures, like that is what the planning system is for. Like people are able to voice concerns, they are able to think about how things might change, like whether they're located in the right place. But there's also a counterfactual that I want people to consider is like without this type of investment, a bigger threat to that landscape exists in climate change. Like without deploying these technologies and without utilizing them, we remain hooked on fossil fuels. And that is a way bigger risk to the agricultural economy of North Yorkshire and a way bigger risk to how it looks and how it feels and whether it can still attract tourism into the future. So like it's not that those of us who just like the way they look just want to deploy them because we like the way they look. It's like there's also like we want to protect that landscape as well. And it should be an open forum for discussion as to how landscape impacts play into what get built where. So that's a really important one to consider. And then secondly, doing my kind of work for me, some of the comments on the Facebook post about this event and the consultation strategy, well, like, isn't it just companies just lining their pockets and extracting profit? And to a degree, yeah, there's a little bit of that in the energy system, and it depends where you look and which companies you look at as to who you might want to point a finger at. But at the same time, inviting capital into the region to build this stuff is important. What's on our desk is how much of that capital is ours. So how much of it do we want to own? How much of it do we want to control? How much of it do we want to invest in? And how can we build the vehicles to allow us to invest in that? And be able to say things like investment vehicles without thinking that we need to be already rich to be able to get involved. And that's why I put the Glasgow example up from Abundance Investment, because they've always allowed people to get on board for a fiver. So like even if that's all you've got and you want to get involved and you want to invest in renewables in a region or green bonds, there are ways to do that now. And you don't need to be already wealthy to do the thing that's called investing. So that's a huge message, is that local ownership can be done through councils, it can be done through combined authorities, it can be done through companies that you set up to do it that are publicly owned, or it can be done through myriad different investment vehicles which enable people to get on board and become a part of it for way less than you might expect. often think I've spoken for too long, so I'll pause there to see if there are any other questions.
That's all right. Yeah, I've been answering some of the questions in the chat.
Oh, there are questions in the chat. Okay, I was in the
Yeah.
Q&A
Oh,
function.
yeah, no, sorry, in the Q&A. So Rosalind's asked, when is the strategy expected to be released, and are there opportunities for landlords to work collaboratively with the CA to help decarbonise/retrofit portfolios? So the consultation, obviously we're out for consultation now, so the consultation draft is available, the strategy, and we are aiming hopefully, but yeah, we'll see how it goes, hopefully to get the final strategy done by the end of the year. And in terms of working with landlords in retrofit, obviously we've got our retrofit strategy that went out for consultation late last year, and we are also looking to get the final version of that out this year, which will have lots of opportunities when we go into the delivery and implementation stages, I'm sure.
Cool.
In terms of other questions, is there scope for tidal and water hydroelectric energy, given Yorkshire's large coastline and extensive rivers? I answered a similar question lower down, which is about offshore wind, is that the local area energy plan is quite focused on rooftop and ground-mounted solar and onshore wind, but that's not to discount all of the other technologies that we've got that will definitely serve as an opportunity in our sort of future energy mix. I don't know, Dylan, if you wanted to pop in on that as well.
Yeah, I think exactly that. And then the other key thing to sort of be aware of as part of that is we currently have, if you navigate to the Carbon Negative Challenge Fund area on the Combined Authorities website, I can drop a link in reply to these chats. But we have something called the Energy Generation Accelerator Program currently running. So that's going to be looking at getting those right technologies in the right place. We're taking a technology agnostic approach to that. So it will be sort of the most suitable technologies for York and North Yorkshire, whatever that ends up being, and looking at where we can site those energy projects. And as I say, it's technology agnostic, so nothing is off the cards currently.
Okay, I'll just talk a little bit about tidal and then about climate bonds. So like we've tried tidal in the Humber before, and it's pretty difficult to make it work, or river flow. It's pretty difficult to make it work. They're really, really hostile environments, and there are better tidal flows across the UK. And that's not to discount that some of the projects might well be able to be made work around here. And we do have a few small hydro projects in the region as well. So like Dylan says, and I also have had discussions with the EGAP team, the accelerating. Sorry, I can't do the acronym, but never mind. There's some really great thinking in the Combined Authority about what might be possible, particularly which will integrate with the agricultural nature of the region, and we really want to see some of them thrive. And then finally on climate bonds, I don't know if there are plans to do climate bonds specifically in York and North Yorkshire, but I'm a massive advocate for them, right? I'm a massive advocate because I'd invest too, and I could see myself doing a first round and putting like a tenner in to see if it worked. And then if it does work and another round comes up, I might, think about doing a little bit more. And, anything that's tied up in other investments that I really want somewhere to put my money which I know is positive and I can see. Would that I had thousands and thousands of pounds in savings to put there, but I think it's hugely positive that people can get on board for a small amount of money, and it's just about making sure that there's a pipeline of projects there so that you can surface these investment opportunities. And again, that's what the strategy is going to support, is more projects waiting in the pipeline for us to be able to invest in. So yeah, I'm really positive about what's possible, what's getting normalized, and ideally being able to make some investments and own some of this stuff ourselves.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And as we're nearly at 1 o'clock now, I think we'll call it to a close. But thank you very much for your time, Steve, and thank you everyone for attending. We do have 2 more webinars in the schedule. So we've got one on the circular economy and one on natural capital. You can find the sign-up links for these on the consultation webpage, which is very handy. Everything's all in one place. So yes, hope everyone has a great rest of the day. And yes, thank you for coming.